YouTube, what is going on? Crowder here today, and I am bringing you guys a tips video on how to have perfect aim in Call of Duty like the pro players. For those who do not know, I'm a retired world champion when it comes to Call of Duty, and now I'm the head coach of the professional franchise Atlanta FaZe, who we have also won a world championship together with as well. And I'm here to give you all the best tips on how to get better at Modern Warfare. Let's get into it right now. Tip number 1, rotational aim assist. So the biggest mistake I see a lot of players do when they first start playing Call of Duty and they're trying to get better is they don't understand exactly how to kind of just activate the aim assist as much as possible, which a lot of pro players are very good at to be very, very accurate. So if your aim feels something like when you're aiming at something and it's like, kind of like, just all inaccurate, a little choppy and jittery, you don't want that. And the way to stop that from happening is with something called rotational aim assist. So I'm going to show you really quick what aim assist looks like when you're not using any movement. So if someone were to walk across my screen right now, I'm going to see if this guy tries to run across. If he runs across and I'm not touching my stick, let's see. Try and find a good here. So I'm not going to touch my stick right there. That guy runs right through my aim. I didn't touch the controller and nothing happened to my red dot, right? You could see that there was clearly nothing going on with my controller. I was standing still holding an angle and someone ran right past me and my controller and aim assist did no help. You never want that to happen. And the way to avoid that from happening is to activate the rotational aim assist. And all you have to do is either move your right stick like this or your left stick back and forth. Now, it's a lot easier to do if you're moving your left stick. So if I move my left stick and someone were to run by my aim, you're going to see that right here, my aim is actually moving and I'm only using my left stick. You can see that I'm staying on this guy with the left stick with that pull. So that's very, very important when it comes to rotational aim assist, and everything that you're going to learn when it comes to aiming and movement all stems from that when you're a controller player. But again, on mouse and key, there's a lot of tips on this video that are going to help you out, so don't be too bummed out right away. But yeah, that's number 1, is making sure that you're using your left stick. So to do that again, when you're holding angles, instead of being still, make sure you're left and right, left and right, left and right, or you're moving, sliding, left and right, just like this. And as this guy's doing this, I'm losing my left stick, I'm strafing left and right, and I'm always going to have that activation on the aim assist, which is going to help me out so much for every kind of gunfight. And then again, your right stick, instead of using your right stick for the aim assist, like I was saying, you can kind of go like that. What you want to do is use your right stick for recoil control, which will be the next tip that I'm about to show you. So yeah, tip number 2, recoil control. If you shoot at a wall, this is very, very simple. Every gun has its own separate recoil, and every gun is going to have its own separate recoil control. So if you know the weapon that you're using and the recoil control that it has, it's going to be a lot easier to use, obviously, every single time you play. So when you get a weapon, what you want to do is you want to shoot it at the wall and see the recoil pattern. So the recoil pattern, hold up, there's a bot pulling up to my left. He's just running into walls over there. So if the recoil pattern, if I shoot this at the wall with this gun, which is the MCW, is going to look like this. I'm not controlling anything. It's going straight up. And as you can see, that is a straight up and then a little bit to the left recoil pattern. So with that being said, what you want to do is get back to the same thing. If it goes up and then slightly to the left, you want to pull down and slightly to the right. So it's going to look something like this, down, slightly to the right. And that same recoil control that I just showed you goes from that to this. And now if you have something like this while you're controlling your recoil, and that's going to take practice and reps and just getting better every single day that you play the game. If you have recoil control that looks like that, or even if it's just half of that, even if it was like half of that where it's like, you start doing it a little bit later, it's a little less tight, that is still going to be so important with the rotational aim assist. Or even if you're a mouse and keyboard player and you're trying to track someone and you do the same thing with your mouse, you pull down and a little slightly to the right, it's going to help you so much when you're tracking people on head glitches. You can use your left stick to really track them and then control the recoil while you're tracking them even more to help you out. So your right stick is going to be your recoil control. Your left stick is going to be a lot more of your left stick strafing and your aiming. So you're staying moving and activating that aim assist while controlling recoil with your right stick right there. So hopefully those two tips help and you kind of understand that. Again, we'll be making a lot of videos on tips and stuff on how to get better. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do, because I'm going to be your #1 tips channel and so much other stuff for Modern Warfare 3, Warzone, and everything that you need to know. Let's move on to tip number 3. And that tip is centering. So centering is probably, if not the most important thing. Everything that I just taught you is extremely important, but if you have bad centering, everything that I just taught you is still going to be pretty tough. So centering is just the center of your screen and where you put it. So you can see that the dot on your screen right there, that is the center of my screen. That is my crosshair. You want to make sure that it is always centered properly to anticipate where people are going to be or where they normally are at. So normally when you first start playing Call of Duty and you're trying to get better, you don't really even think of that and you're centered at the ground. So you can see like right now I'm centered at the ground, and if anyone were to pop up, I have to snap up just like I snapped up to that guy. If there was someone in here, I have to snap up to kill that guy. I have to snap up to kill that guy. And every time I have to snap up, if you're playing against a player that's not a recruit bot in a practice lobby, they're going to kill you, because by the time you snap up, they're already going to kill you, especially if they have good centering. What you want to do is always anticipate and practice your centering. This does take practice. As weird as it is, a lot of people forget about their centering. Even when I used to play in a pro player days back in the day, or I coach pro players now, sometimes people's centering is off. It happens. So when you're running around the map or you're warming up, you want to make sure that you don't have to move your aimer too much to hit those first couple of bullets. And then that's where rotational aim assist comes in, and that's where recoil control comes in. So you want to center, rotational aim assist, recoil control. Center, boom. Rotational aim assist, recoil control. You can see how they all kind of go hand in hand. Even with mouse and key, it's the same thing. You don't get the rotational aim assist, unfortunately. But you want to center, then you want to aim in, and then you want to recoil control and track. So it's going to be very, very helpful to not have to overcompensate when you were running around the map and trying to obviously find people. You can see right there, I'm barely having to move my aim to activate everything else that I just showed you guys. Every time I'm running around the map, I'm always making sure I have my center around like chest high. I think a big question I get is like, what's the proper centering? Honestly, it's around chest high. You don't want to do headshot centering because then if you start shooting and your recoil control goes up, you'll just be missing. You either want to do like chest high or honestly like stomach high. So your first couple bullets recoil up to the chest, which does the most damage. And then sometimes even the headshot. So around the stomach high is where you want to be for the centering. And then the more you do that and the more you got to kind of just get aware with the map, the better you'll get with this, and it will help you out tremendously. Tip number 4 is not the most important tip, but it's just a bonus tip kind of just from watching this video that might help you out a little bit. And it's hip firing first up close. So there's two things. You can pre-fire long range and hip fire up close for short range. And what I mean by that is hip firing first is when you're trying to turn a corner and you know that there is someone around the corner and you are anticipating it. What you want to do is when you slide a corner or jump a corner, you actually want to shoot with your right trigger first before you aim in, because you're actually going to get a bullet or two off in that close range. You see how I shot before I got my aims down sight fully in there? Instead of, you know, jumping, aiming, shooting, you can jump, shoot, aim. And you get 1 or 2 bullets off before you even get fully ADS'd. And you know how Call of Duty is. You die pretty quickly. You might halfway, you know, kill the guy before you even fully ADS and get really accurate with it. You actually want to hit your right trigger before your left trigger, or yeah, right trigger first and then let the left trigger catch up to it because of, you know, getting those bullets out as fast as possible. You're going to get head starts on close-up gunfights if you do so. So that goes to centering, and then everything else that I just told you. You want to center where they're going to be, then you want to shoot first, aim in second. Obviously, you shoot first and let it catch up. And then when you land, you want to rotational aim assist, make sure you're staying moving while gunfights, and then you want to control the recoil control. And you can see that every tip that I'm showing you right now, they all correlate and they are all combined into like one umbrella of just how to get better at aiming. And the same thing goes for what I just said for long range. Instead of, obviously, you don't want to be shooting first and then aiming in for long range. That's obviously ridiculous. What you want to do for long range is pre-fire. So the same thing, if you had someone long range and you're aiming in and holding an angle, what do you want to do when you're holding an angle? I just showed you guys what you want to do. You want to stay moving left and right so you get the rotational aim assist. So you'd be doing this, rotational aim assist, and then you would start pre-firing, recoil control, and then boom, you can see I hit that guy with 2 or 3 bullets before I even saw him. Like, you know, like before I anticipated him being there. No one's fast enough to react to something on a cross like that. And if he were to come back and re-challenge, which a lot of people do, I'm ahead in the gunfight from pre-firing. So if they're far away, pre-firing is your best friend sometimes, making sure that you're understanding that you can't just completely unload your magazine and have no ammo. But if you think someone's going to come through like a hole like that, you can start pre-firing a little bit earlier. It's going to help you out a lot sometimes. Again, a little tip, but it all correlates with what I just showed you before. Moving on to the next one, controller settings. So what you want to do is you want to click start, controller settings, and everything that I just showed you is going to be a lot easier if you have the right settings to activate the rotational aim assist and obviously have the most accurate controller settings that you can possibly have. I play on default, and I play with 2 buttons in the back of my Battle Beaver controller, which is a Crowder faceplate. If you ever want to go purchase that at battlebeaver.com, obviously, you know, you can go do that. Code Crowder and all that stuff. But again, that's not part of the video. We are here to learn. So I play on default. You can play on tactical. Whatever button layout is good for you. I would recommend that you don't have to change your button layout to be good. I promise you, if you just get used to your button layout and practice it, you'll be okay. With that being said, though, I do play on default. I do not play on flipped. You can play on tactical. You can play on flipped. It doesn't really matter. Whatever, you know, floats your boat for that. The more important stuff about these settings is the dead zones. This is the #1 thing that a lot of people talk about. The thing I don't like about the dead zones sometimes is that people don't always explain why you're doing some of this stuff, and then people just copy it, and it doesn't make any sense. So the minimum dead zones of the right stick and the left stick are very, very important. Every controller is different, and every controller is going to have some sort of stick drift sometimes, depending on what you can. So for the left stick minimum, this is the minimum of pressure that is needed to activate your left stick. So right now you can see that it's at 3. If I were to move this left stick all the way to that, you can see this red circle in live time gets bigger and bigger. So now, instead of it being down what I just showed you, which was right here, which was at 3, you can see that basically as soon as I touch my left stick, it activates because there's no red circle at all. It was all the way over here to something like this. You can see that it's going to take the left stick to get all the way over here to start activating. Now, the higher the left stick minimum, the less reactive your controller is going to be to actually start moving. And in the game where movement is very important, you do not want that. And what I just teach you about the rotational aim assist, in a game where aim assist is also very important for controller players, you want that activating immediately. So you need that minimum as low as possible, but some controllers do have stick drift, and you don't want your player moving on his own and where you can't control him. So you have to make sure that your controller can handle a left stick minimum of around 3. If he's moving on his own, up at the 3. If he's still moving on his own, up at the 4, up at the 5, up at the 6, until he's not moving on his own, and it is as low as possible for you. So my controller, that is 3 for me. It's perfect. It activates the aim assist when I need it, and it helps out a lot. Now, what I see a lot of people don't talk about is left stick maximums. This is actually one of the most underrated settings I think you'll ever see when it comes to movements. And the reason why is that the left stick maximum is the maximum of, you can see right here, this red circle, is once the stick gets to right around here, that is the maximum speed that you'll get to. So if I were to put it at 100, which is at default, or 99, which is at default, in order to get the stick to the maximum moving speed, your fastest movement of strafing right or left or moving forward or backwards, it would have to be all the way at the edge. So I would have to hit the stick all the way like that, like all the way to the edge to get it at the fastest. But if I have the left stick maximum lower, it's going to be able to get that fast strafe. You're going to start strafing as fast as possible, or getting the most full out of your sprint or your auto tactical sprint as fast as possible as soon as it hits that maximum. So the lower the maximum, the better. But the thing is that controllers, once you start getting the maximum too small, the controller is just going to start going crazy on its own, and it's not going to be able to handle it. So you want to find that sweet spot. Most controllers, from my experience, has been around 75 to 70 is a pretty sweet spot of like what you can do. My controller right now currently is actually at the 65, and it's perfect. I'm kind of getting lucky with that. But yeah, I would say I would lower it to around like an 80 for most controllers, and that will help you ever so slightly. But again, any little advantage of a setting can always help you, and that's kind of why I'm making these videos, to show you the ins and outs of these things. So don't just leave it at 99. Try and get it as low as possible so you can kind of get that fast strafe speed on that rotational aim assist that I was just showing you as fast as possible. So moving back to the 65 right here, and then going to the right stick minimum. This is another really important one. The right stick is your aiming stick. It is what you were tracking people with on the, like, you know, while they're running across, you're using that left stick aim, but then you're tracking with your right and recoil control with your right. You want to be accurate. A lot of people are going to tell you go as low as possible until, like, you know, you don't have stick drift on your right. I am actually not a huge believer in that. As weird as it is, I think that a lot of casual players that are trying to get better at the game aren't a skilled aimer when it comes to, like, you know, comparing yourself to some of the pro players. Like, you know, you have your Scumps, your Dashies, your Shotsies, your Celiums, your Simps, your Abezies, like, you know, like all the pro players. They're the best in the world at what they do. Yeah, a lot of them play on really, really low right stick minimums. That's because they're really skilled aimers. Funny enough, Celium actually plays with his right stick at a 7 dead zone, so his right stick minimum's at 7. And it's because when you're touching the right stick and you're trying to, like, finesse the recoil control, if it is so minimum to the point where, like, as soon as you touch it, it starts activating, unless you're a really skilled aimer, it's sometimes you're going to almost, like, overcompensate for the recoil control or the tracking, just because you're trying so, like, hard, like, you're holding the stick so heavy that you're almost doing too much because of the right stick minimum being so small. So I actually think that for most casual players that are trying to get better, I think the default is 15. I would lower it to around, like, I would say an 8 or a 9 or a 7. So 7, 8, or 9 is pretty good. But if you think you're a little bit more skilled, you can go lower. And then, honestly, even Celium is one of the best aimers in the world. He still plays at 7. So you don't have to be at some crazy right, like crazy low right, you know, stick minimum to be a good aimer. But just make sure you know what you're doing. So, again, there's going to be times where, like, those right stick minimums just might not feel good for you. Don't let a settings video that you watch from someone, even myself, make you feel like if I'm not on right stick minimum 2, I'm not going to be as good as these guys. With that being said, the last two things I'm going to show you is the left trigger. I keep default. Right stick, I wouldn't touch that. That maximum stuff that I told you with the left stick, you don't want any of that with your right stick at all. And then the right trigger, I want my right trigger to start shooting as soon as I think. If I see someone and my brain says I want to shoot, I hit the right trigger. I want it to happen instantly. So I think right trigger being at 0, as long as your controller can handle it, you do it. You want to shoot as fast as possible, especially with the hip fire first thing that I was showing you and the pre-fire thing that I was showing you. Right trigger at 0. I think it helps a lot. I think it's underrated. And moving over here, sensitivity. Sensitivity is really important. 6.6.1 is what I play on. I used to play on about 10.6.1 or 10.6.7. All pro players, for the most part, play anything from 5 to 7. Like I just said, this is not just how to be a pro player video. This is just what works for you. I think 6.6.1 is really good. The only other thing that I would kind of get like flashy with is Celium, who is a really good aimer as well and a pro player. He likes to play on something like 10.6. And since it is a boots on the ground game, you are moving left to right. And when you are moving left to right, you want to be sure that it's on a horizontal plane because we're not doing jetpacks and people are like flying in the sky, right? So with that being said, it's kind of nice to have a really fast horizontal sensitivity and then a slower vertical, so it kind of like keeps you in line. So like you can't kind of go crazy with your sticks, but you can also kind of play on a faster sense. So if you were to up your sense, try something like upping the horizontal stick sensitivity, but leaving the vertical stick sensitivity slower, so you actually kind of have a really accurate like tracking when people are kind of like running across your screen. Just a tip, you don't have to do it, whatever works for you, but it's just something to keep in mind. I played on that for a while in MW2, and I actually liked it a lot. So I kind of change my sensitivities all the time because I get bored, but still. The last thing I'll show you about settings is aim response curve type. I have mine at dynamic, and you can see that dynamic means that when you are moving, it starts from fast, and then it gets to your sensitivity, so it's a little bit snappier. For the more advanced aimer, dynamic is actually really, really good, and I recommend getting your aim to a point that you can use dynamic, because I do think dynamic is better, but there are some players that still play on the standard curve, even professionals. One of the players that just won the World Series of Warzone with the most kills in the tournament, which was Shifty, he plays on standard, and he is one of the best players in the world too, and he's a really good player, and he plays on standard, and that means it starts from slow and then goes to fast, and for some people that can't keep up, standard might be the curve for you. So don't just copy someone else's settings because they told you. Know what you were dealing with and know that you can use standard or dynamic. I don't think linear is good for anyone unless you're a super advanced aimer, because linear is just as fast as your sensitivity. It completely mimics that, and I think sometimes that's just too much for most people to handle. Dynamic pairing up with the aim assist types is a really, really good combination, and that's why it's so popular, but you can also do standard. Pair that up with your aim assist. Make sure this is always on. It's going to help you out a lot, obviously. And then I play on Black Ops. Pro players play on Black Ops. Pro players play on default. I personally tested it out. I feel like my shot's better on Black Ops, and it's good. People have tested out the aim assist, and people say Black Ops got nerfed, so it's not that good. Black Ops was just really overpowered, and then they nerfed it, so now it's just as good as default. So whatever feels better for you is what you play on. Test it out. I'm about to show you a proper warm-up. While you're doing the proper warm-up, test out the aim assist. Whatever feels better for you is the one you want to pick. I play Black Ops, Abeezy plays Black Ops, and a couple other pro players play Black Ops. Then there's pro players that play default too. So some of the best players in the world use both. And then after that, those are your settings that you need to know. These are some movement behaviors, but we're having a whole movement tutorial coming soon, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. But I'm going to have one last tip that gets everything that I just showed you into one thing that will help you out, and that is the proper warm-up and practice area of what you need to do. So what you want to do is you want to go to the Modern Warfare 3 UI. The UI is very confusing, and you want to go to a create private match. You create this private match, you let it load up, and this is where you get your practice in, because I do think, as weird as this is about to sound, some of you guys might agree, when you play games and you're doing bad, it's frustrating. And when you get frustrated, you play worse, and you start to kind of lose composure of what you're trying to practice, and then you just play worse, you feel worse, you get worse, and it's just a bad experience. You don't want to do that when you're just trying to warm up or do whatever you're doing, right? You want to obviously kind of just get the practice, the warm up in, and then you want to test yourself against other players and stuff. And this is where this proper warm up is really important. When I was a pro player, I did this all the time. Pro players still do this. You want to go to that. You want to start the free for all. I put it on Scrapyard. I think Scrapyard's a really good map. You want to make the score limit 1,000, time limit 45. Then you want to go over to the player, max health. You can put it on more max health if you really want to like practice your tracking and like keeping your stick or the right, like your dot on the guy while they're running around. But I keep it at 150. Health regeneration is fun. And then you put it on the team. You want to enable the minimap, yes. Radar's always on, yes. And then, of course, everything else is fine with this. And then gameplay, spawn, ammo, mags. You want to have that at max just so you spawn in with the max amount of ammo. And then after that, it's all set up. You want to scroll to the top right where it says lobby. Hit this plus sign and just make sure you have bots on so you can put on a bunch of bots. Keep them at recruit. Keep them at veteran. It does not matter because you're shooting against bots. This is your practice. This is not against people. First things first, when you're warming up, you want to go to your settings controller, you want to go to aiming, and then you want to go down to the aim assist and turn it off. And now this is going to sound weird, and this is not something that you need to do. Some people don't like doing this, but I actually kind of think it's like a nice way to warm up. And you play without aim assist, so again, like you're getting no aim assist on people. I'm going to show you exactly like what I mean. So like, yeah, no aim assist. I'm getting nothing even when I'm doing the rotational aim assist. And all this is going to do is help your aim generally of just like practicing your centering, your recoil control, and that strafing. Because if you can do it without aim assist, when you get a little bit of help, it's going to feel like it's like almost like swinging a baseball bat with a donut on it, or you know what I mean? It's going to be a lot easier to do when you have that. And so I would kill anywhere from 10 to 50 bots, especially you don't have to be here for a very long time with no aim assist. And it's going to help you like be light on your sticks, be able to kind of like control your own recoil without any help, and it just help your centering. And when you're running around the map, everything that I just taught you is what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to worry about your centering, your recoil control, of course, rotating that aim assist. So even when you're doing this without aim assist, making sure you're moving left and right with the stick, so you're shooting that. And all those other things I showed you, you want to make sure you're warming up for these first 10 to 50 kills. And then once you think you're good with that and you're feeling good, you go to your controller settings, you turn it back on, and then you do the same thing. And when you're playing, again, you want to be conscious of your centering, number one, and then make sure you're practicing your recoil controls of every gun. If you're trying a new gun and you want to make sure that's another thing too, shoot it at the wall. You see, oh, it goes up there, so what you want to do is pull down to the left. And every single gun, you want to know your recoil control, and then you want to practice. And then every single time you do this, it'll be so much easier after a nice warm-up where you're not frustrated because you just got, you know, killed by some demon in a lobby and he's talking shit to you. You are able to get a little bit better and then obviously warm up. So these bot free-for-alls are what all pro players do. These bot free-for-alls are what I used to do before my biggest matches on stage, and I definitely recommend it to set these up and do these daily. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute warm-up. It could literally be 5 minutes where it's just like 10 kills, no aim assist, 10 kills with a submachine gun, 10 kills with an assault rifle, just to kind of get like, you know, your movement flowing. And then while you're moving around too, when we show you the movement, you want to be practicing your movement with centering and all that stuff too. But I figured I would start with the aim because the aim stuff is very, very important before anything else. Because even if you have demon-like movement and you see a lot of players moving like crazy and they can't shoot straight, that movement's not going to help you if you can't shoot straight. So aiming is always number one. Movement is a very, very, very close second. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, drop a like and all that stuff. And as always, it's been Coach Crowder, your boy Crowder. And we have nothing but good content coming to this channel. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another one. Peace out, guys.